This is part 2 of my conversation with Samantha.
Phenomenal to me. And so the second person is actually going to be two people.
Okay.
And it's going to be like the most stereotypical answer ever. But my parents, who you know, for context listeners, my dad was Abby's teacher.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I was diagnosed with a developmental disability. I was like, how's the best way to word this? And I was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Level 1 autism, at the time identified as pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified, which basically translates to this child is not autistic, but they are not autistic. And my parents were not given a great prognosis for me when they received this diagnosis. First, it was very difficult for them to receive this diagnosis because they had to take me to like 8 different doctors, and each doctor answered something different. And they were like, we just need to figure out what this is once and for all. And eventually I was taken to like Johns Hopkins in Maryland, and they diagnosed me with PDD-NOS, and which is now part of the autism spectrum disorder kind of spectrum. That doesn't exist anymore. I want to say, how many people have this? I want to say, Googling this right now as I was doing it. The diagnosis existed for less than 20 years. They don't have an official number, but they used it for less than 20 years, so it's considered one of the more rare forms of autism. Just because sheer numbers. I mean, the autism diagnosis has been around for about 100 years, and for 20 of those, PDD-NOS was used. So, of course, it's going to be like a smaller number than other disorders considered to be on the autism spectrum. And anyways, regardless, I mean, the prognosis for autism 20 years ago, now it like varies kind of wildly. Depending on what supports are available to a person and what their specific difficulties are. But 20 years ago, when I was diagnosed, they didn't know very much about like different treatments and how they worked, and about like the sheer amount of variability in autism. The prognosis was not good. And like we're talking the time period where the average like life expectancy of somebody with autism, generally across the board, like people were told it was the age of 35. It has changed now. It now varies again wildly, and it's partially due to like mental health related factors and physical health related factors. Like autism doesn't like just kill you, but and it's like that is now understood. It doesn't just kill you. And if you keep things like mental health and physical health, you make sure that autistic people have the resources they need or the care that they need. Like they're much less likely to die super young. But at the time, like that was kind of the age, like the mortality age, average mortality age was approximated around 35. And my parents were kind of like, they were told like I probably wouldn't ever like leave their house, which again, there's nothing wrong with that if that's the best way to like live your life. And if you need care from family for your entire life, that is extremely valid. But part of the problem there was that my parents were older parents. My mom was 36 when she had me. My dad was a little bit younger. I want to say he was either 33 or 34. No, yes, 33. He was 33. And so, like, that's not super, like, abnormal, I think, for our time now. But at the time, that was considered to be pretty old. Again, like, a lot of this story ends up kind of just being things that are normal now, a lot of things that are normal now but were unusual at the time ended up happening to my family. And things worked out because as we got more used to it, so did society. But, and as we learned to live with it, so did much of society. We kind of were like learning things along that same learning curve, I think, as the world. Except I do think in terms of like acceptance and like treatment and helpfulness, my parents definitely are ahead of the world in terms of that. Which is why I picked them as my like second person people. I mean, my mom decided to work night shifts instead of like working during the day and having me go to daycare. Like we needed like a second income, but she worked night shifts, which, gosh, I can't even imagine how exhausted she was, because she would spend the day kind of teaching me alternate skills, where like if I wasn't necessarily going to develop a certain skill, she would teach me alternate ones instead that could help me. When they realized that I had the potential to learn how to read younger than the average person, but like learn to read, learn to write, but I might have some like speech delays, I might have some like verbal communication delays, they really dove in on that sort of reading and writing aspect of things. And so I ended up like learning how to read and write, or at least having the beginnings of learning to read and write when I was 2 or 3 years old, even though I was in speech therapy until I was in middle school. And like I could speak, I was never nonverbal, which my mom said. She's like, I don't know whether that made my life easier or harder. She said mostly easier, but sometimes I just would not stop talking. And she's like, and it was like bizarre things too. But like she worked with me a lot in a way that a lot of people didn't necessarily have the privilege to do. But I'm so grateful that my parents specifically did, and that my parents encouraged me to live a life beyond the expectations of me, to kind of dream beyond what might have been expected for me. And it's because of that that I achieved kind of beyond what expectations, like my initial prognosis gave me. Like only about 19% of autistic people graduate from college on time. Like, and by on time, I mean complete a 4-year degree within 4 to 5 years. Only 19% of autistic people overall. Like that's both like who attempted it and who didn't succeed. 19% of them get a college degree that they complete within 4 to 5 years. And as compared to like 45% of people who start college end up graduating within 4 to 5 years. And I was one of them, and I got to major in all the things I wanted to major in. I was able to complete all my requirements on time, and that was despite difficulties I had. Like I had accommodations. I had accommodations all throughout elementary, middle, and high school, and college. I even have them now as a graduate student. Even for a year, I didn't want to admit that I needed them as a grad student. Eventually, I was like, this is graduate school. This is the hardest of the schools that I've been in thus far. And I'm legally allowed to have accommodations, so I should probably get them. But it was kind of remembering the things that my parents taught me, namely that just because I have to do it differently than other people, and just because like the things that I choose to do, like I don't come up with the same ideas, I don't have the same choices, whether by design, like by my own choice, or by just like that's how life worked out. Just because I don't have the same choices doesn't mean I can't be successful. And I think that's a really, like, it was a really inspiring thing to learn. And I think it's something that I hope everyone eventually learns. And I mean, I think success is relative. I think we come up with our own ideas of success.
Mm-hmm.
And that's often based off of the choices provided to us. But sometimes we are provided with a choice, like a potential like way to be successful that appeals to us, and then we're made to feel like it's not possible. And then sometimes it is, and you have to find an alternate way to figure it out. But that often means asking for help. That often means getting the help that you deserve. That often means having people who believe in you and who encourage you to find another way. I'm not going to be like all pithy and say there's always another way, but very often there is. Mm-hmm. And I would even go as to say usually there is. And of course that way might require taking a different path. It might require asking for help. It might require that people give you grace. Mm-hmm. It might require that you work alongside somebody. But at least I'd like to think that that's something that I hope everyone can eventually learn for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you finish your thought?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you. Amazing answers. Great answers. I'm being very quiet because I'm trying to be a good journalist.
You're killing it. You're killing it.
And this has been part 2 of my conversation with Samantha. Thank you for listening, and please tune in for part 3.